Time for commentary from a very concerned citizen.
I'm a very concerned citizen, and I want to talk to you about the following program. It's called the Not Too Stuffy Law Show. And I think it's disgusting that this or any other station would air such a deplorable program. First of all, the Not Too Stuffy Law Show bills itself as a law show. A law show? They say that the show is entertaining. Well, that tells you how much they know. A law show should never be entertaining. It's supposed to be serious. Serious, like all of the obnoxious, ill-mannered, nose-in-the-air, peacocks-like strutting attorneys who won't call you unless they want something from you. That's what we expect from our lawyers, and that's the way lawyers act. And the Not Too Stuffy Law Show says that it's informative. Informative? Ha! Well, it is informative. But aside from being entertaining and informative, the Not Too Stuffy Law Show also says that it enlightens the audience. Enlighten. Do the people who make the Not Too Stuffy Law Show even know what the word enlighten means? Here, I'll tell you what enlighten means. Enlighten. To instruct or impart knowledge to. Well, so the Not Too Stuffy Law Show also enlightens the audience. But aside from being entertaining, informative, and enlightening, what else does the Not Too Stuffy Law Show do for you, I tell you the program is a complete waste of time. So, please do not watch the following show. In fact, actually, I'll change the station for you. Oh, darn this thing. Oh, there.
Cell phones off.
Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Not Too Stuffy Law Show. I'm your host, attorney Justin St. James. For the next half hour, we hope to entertain, inform, and enlighten you, and if we don't, please don't tell anyone else. I'd like to welcome our studio audience. Wow, I feel like I'm in a Doublemint gum commercial. In this program, we start off with an unusual case in contract law involving plastic surgery that went awry. In the second half, we discuss privacy issues with police officer Chuck Edgerly of the Andover Police Department. Officer Edgerly will explain what privacy is and where you can expect to have it. My conversation with Officer Edgerly will continue in episode 7 of the Not Too Stuffy Law Show. So stick around, there's a lot to learn and you'll have a good time. Up first, a case in contract law where the plaintiff wins by a nose.
Contract. A contract is A, someone you hire to build an addition to your home, B, an arrangement by an organized crime syndicate to rub out an opponent, or C, an agreement between two or more parties creating obligations that are enforceable at law. And the answer is A. Well, all right, the answer is C. An agreement between two or more parties creating obligations that are enforceable at law.
This is the part of the show we call Bedtime Stories for Lawyers. If you have young children who dream of becoming attorneys, and who doesn't, then dress them up in their PJs, pour the hot cocoa, and gather around the television. This is a story that will delight future lawyers of all ages. This is a story about a woman who needs a nose job, and it's called Sullivan versus O'Connor. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful actress who needed to have a nose job. The actress went to the doctor to see if he could do anything to help make her wishes come true. The doctor immediately knew what the problem was.
Doctor, I'm sure you know why I'm here.
What, do you want a tummy tuck, or you want your thighs, reduced, or do you want your ears a little closer to your head, or, boob job, something like that?
It's as plain as the nose on my face. Why I'm here.
I don't know. Are you sure you don't want your breast implant? I don't see anything wrong.
Doc, I got a problem.
You sure you don't want that tummy tuck?
I need something else fixed.
You want your...
Almost anybody knows what it could be.
So you do want your ears a little closer to your head?
Well, once the doctor figured out what the actress wanted, he conducted a full and thorough physical examination of his patient.
All right. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe in. Breathe in. Breathe in. And breathe in. And breathe in. And breathe out. You sure you want that nose job?
And the operation to improve the actress's looks took place.
Here, hold that.
Unfortunately, the results of the operation didn't go according to plan. In fact, there was not just one operation, not two operations, but 3 operations altogether. You see, the doctor had promised, and that's a key word, promised to enhance the actress's beauty and improve her looks. So when the doctor realized he couldn't achieve the desired results, he was reluctant to let the patient see her new nose.
You know, Doc, I've been waiting quite a while now. I'd really like to see what I look like.
No, you know, that's really okay. That's all right. I mean,
Is the mirror around?
oh, I don't know. I don't know. I really think you should wait.
I'd kind of like to know, you know, because I got to start getting, you know, my agent getting me some bookings and stuff, and I'm awfully excited.
Ask him how you look.
Could I see, please? Could I see just a little teeny bit?
I think you should wait.
Could you just open up a little bit of the Band-Aid? Just a little smidge so I could just take a little peek.
You could do that when you get home. I don't think you should look at it here.
But eventually, the doctor had to give in, and the day of the unveiling of her new nose finally came. Well, this wouldn't be a law story if somebody didn't bring legal action, and that's exactly what the actress did. She sued the doctor for breach of contract. In most contract cases, the idea is to put the plaintiff back into the position that he would have been before the parties entered into their agreement. The plaintiff may also seek damages he suffered in reliance on that agreement. In this case, the actress sued the doctor for pain and suffering, the worsening of her looks, and the mental distress of undergoing 3 operations. The actress and the doctor vigorously argued their case in front of the judge. The judge, who had big ears and was naked except for wearing a bow tie, listened intently to both sides. But in the final analysis, the judge sided with the actress, saying the actress relied on the doctor's promise to enhance her looks. In most plastic surgery cases, the surgeon does not actually promise any particular result. What the doctor will normally do is state up front that he will try his best to fulfill the patient's wishes, but cannot guarantee that the results will meet the patient's highest expectations. That's what makes this story somewhat unusual. It's also unusual for a plastic surgery case to come under a breach of contract. Generally, a plastic surgery case would be more of a tort claim, but that is the story of Sullivan versus O'Connor. Up next, a discussion about privacy with Police Officer Chuck Edgerly. I'm here with Officer Chuck Edgerly of the Andover Police Department. Welcome to the Not Too Stuffy Law Show.
Thank you.
Here to talk about some privacy issues. Is there a definition for privacy, or is it pretty much one's expectation of privacy? How does it work?
I mean, obviously there's a definition of it. However, anything to do with law enforcement, there's never a black and white answer that you would actually use a definition, with a few exceptions. Privacy varies depending on the situation, depending on where an individual is. It is very gray.
Okay, well, let's start with an automobile, for example.
Sure.
Like, I think most people would assume that if they're sitting in their car, they have an expectation of privacy. But if one is pulled over for a speeding ticket, for example, and an officer goes to give a citation for speeding, and he sees a handgun on the passenger seat. Now, can he ask if it's licensed? Obviously, would that be the first question?
Well, the biggest thing that we're most concerned about is officer safety. So the first thing we're going to do is take whatever safety steps we need to make sure that the operator isn't able to reach that handgun if it's visible, whether it's legally possessed or not. So we'll have the person show their hands, have them step out of the car, and then we will tell them to show us their FID or license to carry.
Sure.
So we have to request it is what we need to do. Anything that is plain view, there isn't an expectation of privacy if there's plain view. I mean, you're out in the public, you're in a vehicle that's mobile, you can move around, you can go from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. So if we're on a motor vehicle stop or we come across a disabled car, and inside the vehicle we can see in plain view without having to, move people or lift luggage and paperwork, that sort of a thing. Something that is banned, whether it's an illegal drug or whether it is an illegal weapon like a gun, if it's in plain view, we're able to take action and investigate further.
Okay, so let's say something's not in plain view. Say you pull someone over for speeding, and your rolls down the window, and you smell marijuana, or what you think is marijuana, coming from the car. What can you do then? Now, can you search? Obviously now a marijuana joint can be hidden in the glove compartment. It can be hidden under the seat. Are you allowed to then, say, step out of the car and you can search the car at that point?
Well, there's actually some new case law on that. When marijuana was considered a criminal violation, where we had right of arrest, that actually, the smell of it alone allowed us to start searching, to have the person step out of the vehicle, search the person, search the vehicle, the glove box, I mean, pretty much anything. The decriminalization of marijuana, so if it's less than an ounce, it's a $100 civil fine that we issue on a town citation. Because it's civil, that by itself doesn't initiate a full search like in years past. So we would need more than just the smell. However, if we can see, a bag of marijuana in there at the same time, or several buds or a blunt, something more than just the smell, then we're able to go, a little bit further. But what a lot of folks don't understand is with the whole marijuana law, it's just the 1 ounce or less, that's the $100 fine. If it's more than an ounce, if it's individually bagged, even if it's for individual use, I went and I bought 5 or 6, small bags for me that, let's say they'll last, not that I'm smoking marijuana or anything like that, but say that would last an individual maybe a week, week and a half, 2 weeks. I'm really not sure how long that would last them, just because of the way it's packaged and the way it's bagged, would be enough reason for us to think that the person could be dealing or could be distributing. We can then get into the vehicle and do a more thorough search.
But if you don't see it, if you smell marijuana, and that's not enough of an incentive, then, and you don't see anything, then there's nothing much.
Other than asking, and depending on the individual, they may say, yeah, I have a little bit more, or here's my bag, or I smoked at home. I mean, we may be more concerned not knowing how much they've had to smoke. We may be more concerned about them driving off as a result of the stop, depending on what we stopped them for. And there have been cases where we've stopped somebody, we can smell marijuana. They're driving, depending on what the reason for the stop, whether they were weaving a little bit, they were maybe missed a stop sign. We don't have any real test, or the average officer doesn't have any testing mechanism to determine the intoxication level of that individual that's driving, unlike with alcohol. So to err on the side of caution, there have been many times where we've told the person driving, I don't know how much you've had to smoke. I don't know if you're on your way up, on your way down. I don't feel comfortable having you drive because I don't want you to get into a crash and injure yourself or somebody else. And in that case, we'll end up, towing the vehicle, and usually the driver's okay with that. I don't recall any issues where the driver has said, no, I'm going to drive, you're not taking my car, and the officer would have to make a judgment call on whether to have the person step out and go any further with that. But if we're towing any vehicle, so we're having the person get a ride with somebody, or we give them a ride to wherever they need to go, if we're towing the vehicle, we're required to inventory the vehicle for the safety, or the safety of the tow company, so that they're not accused of taking something from the vehicle, and as well as the owner of the vehicle, so they have everything documented, whether it's damage, any items that are in the vehicle. During that search, we're allowed to search pretty much anything, including the trunk. And if at that point, as part of a true inventory search, we find anything, at that point we can press it even further.
So then this would you be actually arresting the individual?
Not necessarily. Even a car crash, any type of police-initiated tow. Okay. Whether it's a car that broke down on the side of the road that's in a bad spot, we can't wait for AAA, so we're going to have the contractor for the town come out and tow the vehicle. A car crash, a motor vehicle stop, and there's an arrest or a summons, or any reason that the police are making a tow on a vehicle, we have to do an inventory search of the vehicle per policy.
Now, an inventory isn't necessarily you're taking the items, you're just marking down
correct
pair of gloves in the glove compartment, spare tire in the back, that sort of thing.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Now, at what point, if you said that in most cases you've never had a case where the person's refused to have the car towed, what if he does? What if he says, no, I'm fine, I want to drive home?
At that point, the officer would most likely put the person through maybe some field sobriety tests, or, you know, I mean, we can arrest for operating under the influence of drugs as well as for alcohol. The probable cause may be there, whether there's enough reasonable doubt to get a conviction if it ever went to trial. I don't know. Obviously, it's a case-by-case basis, but it all depends on the circumstances and condition there.
And if he steps out of the car, can you also do a frisk?
If he steps out of the car, if we do a frisk immediately, as opposed to waiting until, you know, the person's been out of the car walking around for 10, 15 minutes and then doing a frisk, what the courts have said is if you do an exit order, have somebody get out of the car, you need to do it up front with articulable reasons why you're doing it. And unless you're putting the person in your cruiser, at which point we would do a search, just because for our own safety and theirs, we're putting them in a cruiser. We don't want any surprises. We wouldn't do anything except for, you know, when we're initially asking them to get out of the vehicle.
And what about a passenger? If there's a passenger in the car, can you say there's a female companion? Can you look through her pocketbook? Can you, again, you can do a frisk for her, obviously.
We can do a frisk for her, and again, we're looking for, you know, weapons. It's that sort of a thing. Drugs would be secondary. I mean, if we're patting somebody down for weapons for any reason, and just to, I guess, expand upon the whole, you know, when you can and can't get somebody out of a vehicle to do a search. You know, if we stop a car for red light violation, any motor vehicle violation, and we see furtive movements. So we pull in behind the vehicle, and the person that's up front, the two people up front that are in the car, you know, start moving around, and it looks like that they're either trying to hide something.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, it could be they're getting their license and registration out because they want to be ready for the officer, but the message to the public is, if we stop you, pull over to the side and keep your hands on the wheel.
Sure.
Don't start looking for things.
Turn on the light.
Turn on the light. We don't know if you're getting your license and registration, or if you're getting a weapon or hiding a weapon or something that you're not supposed to have. So those movements, you know, as well as it could be, you know, time of day, it's getting dark, it's in maybe a rough side of town. We can do an exit order at that point, do a search, quick pat down on the individual to see what they were hiding, as well as the general area of the vehicle that they were sitting in.
Okay. But now if an officer pulls someone over for speeding and he orders the individual out of the car, he has to explain why?
Right. I mean, it's not, I've never really seen our guys just stop, you know, stop a car and have the person get out. Usually it's, you know, from what I've seen with case law, is they want, you know, a reason for the exit order. Or if you do an exit order, you know, it should be when you are put in fear or think that there's a need to have the person come out.
And does it matter who owns the car? I mean, if
it doesn't. We usually don't know who's, I mean, anybody that's driving the vehicle is responsible for anything on the vehicle, technically. However, in court, I've seen, you know, the owner of the individual of the vehicle step up and say that it was their items and they've taken the hit for it.
Really? Okay. So even with drugs, if they found drugs, really? That's interesting. Oh, okay, interesting. Is there a difference between, this is off the beaten path a little bit, but is there a difference between profiling and reasonable suspicion?
I think so. I mean, profiling, when you start talking about profiling, everybody throws racial in front of it.
Sure.
So, you know, are we out there, any police agency, are they out there looking for a specific race, age, look, and appearance? I'm going to say the answer is no. I mean, 9 times out of 10, we can't see inside the vehicle anyway until we've stopped it. At nighttime, it's dark, you can't see in the vehicle. Even during the daytime, depending on lighting conditions, it's very hard to see in just because of the glare coming off the front of the windshield. When we're standing on the side of the road, if we're using a handheld radar or a LiDAR, speed detection device, you know, the vehicle is 600 feet away, and we get a high speed, and we walk out to pull the vehicle over. We are already out there with the to initiate a motor vehicle stop before we even see how many people or who or what, you know, are driving the car. It's the behavior of the vehicle itself, its operation, that we're looking for when we're making a motor vehicle stop. Now, if there is advanced intelligence out there that we're looking for an Asian male, 40 years old, driving a dark blue European sports car, or you know, like an Audi or a Volkswagen, something that's a little bit more specific, because they were involved in a robbery, that sort of a thing. That's a little bit different than profiling, because we actually have, you know, specific information on a type of person we're looking for, a specific crime.
You would have a warrant for that anyway, wouldn't you?
Maybe, maybe not. Sometimes things, you know, fresh and continuous, something just happened, we put the information out and it goes.
Okay. That actually kind of sort of happened to me about 10 years ago. I was driving, I had a 1990 Mustang, it was an LX. It it looked like a plain Jane, but it had the V8 engine in it. It was very fast, but it was a hard top. It was a notchback. And I was driving through Ballardvale. I don't remember the street, but it was a windy, basically a very windy 2-lane road. And a police officer had pulled someone over on the opposite side. And as I turned the corner, he looked up, and I could see his eyes get really wide, and I could tell something was going on. But I kept on going, and sure enough, about 10 seconds later, he's in my rearview mirror, and he did not even get as far as my door. He said, "I'm very sorry, sir, please continue on." So obviously, he was looking for somebody that fit my car's description.
Right.
Yeah, but that was about it. So.
Exactly.
Now, a person walking down the street, obviously, they have no expectation of privacy?
They do have some expectation of privacy. I mean, if you look at what our rights are, right of freedom of movement, I guess, free movement throughout the country. Unless it's a specific checkpoint that we're having, for instance, if it's like a OUI roadblock that state police puts on, of course, that involves driving. But overall, folks have, the freedom to move around as they wish. Mm-hmm. If there are facts that are involved, for instance, it's late at night, it's in an area where we've had car breaks, and this person just, it's 2 in the morning, and why would somebody be out walking wearing all black at 2 in the morning carrying a backpack? That changes things. At that point, we can initiate a stop of the individual, even if they're walking, do a search, quick look and see if they have any weapons on them, any burglarious tools, that sort of a thing. And we actually have had successful cases where our officers in the evening patrolling areas that were hit the week before for car breaks have seen people that just, the time of day, the place, what they were wearing, the backpack, initiated a conversation with them, did a check, and they had 3 or 4 GPS receivers, a couple of radios, and some spare change. That throughout the rest of the morning, we were getting phone calls for people that had there's GPS receivers and spare change and everything taken from their car. Yeah. And charges had gone forward, and they ended up sticking right through the trial.
Wow. My conversation with Officer Edgerly on privacy will continue in episode 7 of the Not Too Stuffy Law Show. I'd like to thank my studio audience for being here. And maybe we should each get them a pillow. As we always do, we leave you with the beautiful music of the equally beautiful Sarah Milson. You may find Sarah's music on Amazon, iTunes, iLike, eMusic, Facebook, and of course, sarahmelson.com. The name of the song is Happy Endings. Until next time, I hope everything you do will come to a happy ending. I'll see you then.
I guess I just never realized how badly I needed to be surprised. You kissed me with your eyes less than I do. Now I'm 1,000 miles away, waiting for the first light of day. And the way I'm feeling is oh so new. And I believe in happy endings, and I only see the good in you. And I believe the world is worth mending. I think that you do too. I know that you're an optimist. You're pretty impossible to resist. And I know you